recently I found myself thinking about how every generation or every time period in regards to the generation living in it, had such a distinct look. If I'm looking for the 60s, yeah, there were a bunch of things, a bunch of ways it looked, the music, the clothing, but I can see it. I can picture, I think the 60s, I can think film noir, I can think, okay, that might not even be the right the right time, but point is, like, I can visualize it. There are things that stand out about it, in its style, in its culture, movements, in everything, to be honest with you. And then I thought about my generation, Gen Z, a generation, a generation. Yes, we are that, and I just can't see anything. Like, what's our thing? How do you? I can't help but wonder, how does each person see Gen Z, and I can't help but wonder if it's vastly different, like with each person. And like when I think about the 60s and the hippie movement, and I can see one image, even though they're all different, it's one thing. And I think another person, if I say, hey, what about the hippies, what comes to mind? Or what do you think about the 60s? What do you think about the 80s, the 90s? You can go to grunge. Like, they're just these specific ways of thinking and seeing it. I can't see that with us. I can't see myself going to one person and being like, what does this generation look like to you? What stands out? And them having an answer, and or having an answer that is similar to what would be my answer, or the next person's, rather. So it got me onto this whole idea, or just thought about this whole thing. I don't have answers. One thing about me is I don't have answers. I'm just kind of asking this question of, what legacy exactly does Generation Z leave behind? I find it interesting because it feels more recent. I mean, I even if you think about, what are they called? Millennials. Sorry, millennials. I love you guys. But when you think about millennials, even they had a look. I can remember them. I remember how they dressed. I remember the clothing choices they made, their movements. They still felt very distinct, even though they grew up with, the internet. And I'd argue that we as Gen Z grew up so deeply into technology, it is a huge reason as why as everything is so chaotic, with trends popping up every other week. So it means that we don't have a distinct look, that even our predecessors, what's that word? Millennials have a look. The indie sleaze movement, oh my gosh, movement? No. The indie sleaze fashion, style, it's more than that, Mom. It's more than a phase. I can see them. I can see everyone so clearly. The brand clothing, oh my gosh, the brands that the 2010s were filled with, the Kappa, the Timberlands, the belts, the Gucci belts, the print clothing that had to have the brand name everywhere, like Louis Vuitton, whatever. I see it. That was the 2010s. The challenges they faced, I remember the Fees Must Fall was big, really big. I remember Vine. I see them so clearly. And ours isn't constant. I don't know. We don't have anything really. Yes, everything recycles, but something usually sticks, for a long time. Fashion does do that 20-year cycle, I believe, where everything just comes back, and no generation is going to be different with that. But ours, it feels like nothing solid has stuck. Like I said, with the millennials, you could see the 90s influence. You could see they took a few things, like the choker, for example, coming back. You can see it. Something sticks, usually. But I almost feel like we're cosplayers of the past. You know, like the hippie culture, we could never, I don't know, could we? I feel like we couldn't get something to last long enough like that and see us getting out there doing that groundwork, that dedication, because we are so equipped, like we rely so heavily on technology that if we were challenged with, you know, what the hippies did, and listen, I'm not saying the hippies were perfect, I know there was inner problems, you know, but if we were challenged with like being so against something that we all are like, screw it, we're all gonna go outside and do the whole flower power movement, which I feel like I need to do a whole other video about the hippies and how much respect I have for them, but whatever. I just feel like we could never do that. We could never have a look like imagine how they got to that point, like the hippie culture, to get that. I'm sure a lot of it involves taking from other cultures, I don't know, but we could never, you know. Slang nowadays is even borrowed. We don't have anything, we don't have much. Even the word slay, which I use a lot more than I want to, it's against my will. That's from the 2000s, no? Our fashion is heavily borrowed. We put on clothes, you know. We aren't a part of fashion the way that other generations have. I think about, for example, punk culture, or the goths and the emos. Like it was more than just like clothing. It represented so much and meant so much that it led to a lot of misfortunate events happening with a lot of people and violence and all of that. But the good parts of that was that it showed people's dedication and understanding and taking time to understand. This is the thing. We just cosplay. We just wear the coastal grandma look. We're so eager to put a label on it. We're so eager to make it, I don't know. And it doesn't feel as authentic as the way we've always done these things. I'm looking at fashion heavily here, but you know, it's not only that. Filming memories, you know, I keep thinking about when I watch YouTube videos of people that are doing vlogs for now, you know. A few use HD, you know, like we can see what our camera quality looks like now, but a lot also use, you know, older camcorders and all these older like from the 2000s, the video equipment, like the cameras that they use. A lot of them are old, you know. We're using the vintage look from the 2000s and the 90s in 2020s videos and vlogs and things like that. It just keeps feeling like we don't know how we look. I keep thinking in the future, when they look back, what are they seeing? Like, what are they gonna see as us? What were we? And I don't blame us, okay? I don't blame us fully. You know, even films now are so borrowed these days. Remakes, reboots, biographies, live adaptation, pre-live reboot, adaptation, remake, whatever. It's just films are borrowed. And listen, I know films have always been borrowed, but I don't know how, like, back in the 2000s they made it feel fresh. Like, it was shocking to me to find out that, like, so many things were Shakespearean, even She's the Man. What are you on about? But that's because they just had it down and everyone was doing different genres. We just don't have, I don't know. It's frustrating. What are we gonna have to look back at as our now? What's our now? That's so important that it's also shown on TV as well, and films. Because in the future, we look back at these things and it matters. Don't ask me why it matters, it just does. Okay, so there's obviously aspects of this conversation that I think are important, and that has to do with the self. Yes, I'm about to make this about me. I kept seeing this comment in YouTube videos that do take on the, or rather, I've seen this type of comment in YouTube videos that don't take on that most cinematic vlog look. And that is, gosh, I'm so glad that, something doesn't feel fake, which is funny because those cinematic vlogs take a form of self-expression. There's a reason why the YouTuber decided to make their videos that way. It's important for them and their creative process, but I do understand where that comment is coming from, and I think that's because of oversaturation. That's kind of a pun. Puns don't get enough credit, but alas, oversaturation in the sense that everyone kind of makes their videos start to look like that. Everyone has the best camera quality for every kind of video, especially the vlogs and the cinematic kind, and I think people start to feel a bit tired of that look. I don't know. A huge part of where my anxiety with this topic of what do we leave behind is also more of a what do I leave behind. And I had a point with my YouTube where I was like, I'm gonna make it look like that one day. I want it to be so cinematic and all of this, and I got so burnt out because I don't have that equipment and all of these things. It made me feel insignificant in what I was doing, and it required me to really look at myself and ask, what do I love? What do I really want out of my channel? Why am I trying so hard to make my channel look like other people's channels? It should be authentic to me. It should be me. And I think this is an important question to ask with this topic, because I mentioned that a lot of us are so quick to jump on the next trend cycle and then it's over. And then it's the next trend cycle and then it's over. If we spend time really kind of removing all these outside influences and just sitting with ourselves, thinking what we like, I think we'd be closer actually. I think, hey, I don't come bearing solutions, just questions and propositions. I think maybe we'd be one step closer to that unity that sometimes I feel my generation lacks. That sense of self that this generation lacks, myself included. I'm on this journey trying to discover myself. Last year was amazing for that. I had time to really sit with myself, and I'm still in this weird place where I'm like, I've made these weird videos about them that feel, I'm calling them scriptless videos, in the sense that they are anti me trying to be the kind of YouTuber that I think I should be versus who I am. Hello? Me talking about fashion and using fashion a lot in this video is not a coincidence. I think fashion is very, very personal. To me especially, it means so much. I grew up in a very fashionable household, and I've loved it since I was very, very young. So many of my pictures are me posing, me in fashion looks. I loved it. I've always understood it. I just get it. And so I felt strange last year because the year before that I went to university and I was dressing up so much. Oh my goodness, I was wearing all kinds of clothing and trying 80s looks, because I was like, the 80s looks like something. I love 80s music, so surely I love 80s as a general thing, and that's my personality, the 80s. But I got burnt out so quickly and I stopped enjoying. The need to dress up every single day, wear clothes, and this is coming from someone who came from, in South Africa, schools mainly wear uniform. So coming from that to wearing uniform every day to having to dress yourself with your own clothes every day, it was very and then I just jumped in the deep end of going for all these aesthetics, looking a certain way, buying jeans I'd never buy ever, those 80s flare-ups. It it made me so tired. By the end of the year, I stopped caring about how I dressed. And I find it funny because I watched a video by Mina Lay, I think was it last year when it came out, or was it early this year, where she was talking about her fashion and all of that. And I found it interesting how much I resonated. And I was like, yeah, that is where I was. What I did end of last year was take a moment to sit with myself and think, what do I really like? Like, what stands out? What's something that's there that you might not even be noticing? And I kept there's actually a funny story where I told myself I love stars. I didn't tell myself I know I love stars. Like decoration, I don't know how to explain it. I swear I have a spiritual connection with stars, the shape and everything. It feels very childlike, and it looks like a child threw up. You know those kind of pictures? I'll put pictures of the feeling I get when I look at stars and the shape itself. Weird to say I have a favorite shape, but it's a star. And I remember being like, stars are my thing. That's it. And then devastating. And then I saw Olivia Rodrigo, and she loves stars as well. She's always putting them in her designs and stuff. And I was like, hey girlie, I did that first. But that's not true. Stars have always been there on Pinterest as well. But then it had me scared, like, oh my gosh, do I not know anything that I like? Is there nothing original about me? But that isn't the way to look at that. People will have similar interests. That's okay. You don't have to start anything. But just knowing why you love something and knowing that it's really like something you love from your core. You're not being told to love it. You're not seeing like you are like, this is me. Is how I feel with the star thing. I just found it funny that Olivia started having stars in her things, and I was just like having a meltdown because I'm like, wow, this thing I thought was real to me, is it even real? Is it fake? Is an algorithm feeding me stars? So funny. And then I saw models putting stars on their face, and I was like, I did that first. I put stars on my knees. But that was earlier on last year when I had that panic. But then later on in the year, I came full circle, and I understood why I love stars more, and why it really is something that I do love, regardless if everyone in the world starts sticking stars all over their body. Why do I care so much about it? What does it represent? And I remembered one of my favorite genres of music is shoegaze, bedroom pop, music that sounds like you're floating in space and the stars and all of that, beach house. One of my most played songs last year was There Is So Much Noise in the Back. I don't know if we're gonna survive this, but we'll see when I edit. My favorite song last year was End of the Beginning by Joe. And once I thought about it, it was like an epiphany. I was like, wait, yes, Cockatoo Twins. It made so much sense that I love stars. The music feels like stars. I just had so much evidence to know there's a reason for me loving this, so I can love it freely and it's authentic to me. I think another thing that I just felt like sharing was with that Minalay video. There was a quote that she had mentioned. Great video in general, but I found it funny, the quote that she had mentioned. You know, you sometimes wonder, when there are people that know themselves and have that specific sense of style, how do they get to that point? And hearing, I'm just paraphrasing, but hearing, I'll put the name on screen, I keep forgetting the name, but this fashion icon who is so eclectic and true to themselves with their fashion, hearing them say, you know what the key to finding your personal style is? Literally looking at everything else. Stepping away from your style, stepping away from your fashion. That's how you find your fashion sense. It kind of sounds BS, like, what do you mean? But it makes sense, because I've gotten this similar advice when I was doing first year as a writing student, and some advice we had gotten was, you want to be a good writer? Go look at other things as well. Go look at art in museums. Go look at this, that, all forms. not just written books and texts. So it makes sense that that would apply as well to fashion and your own sense of style. And rest assured, this I've had this revelation this December that I love the 90s. It's my biggest what's the word, not genre, sorry. But with my music, yes, there we go, it's the genre I listen to the most in terms of the year. It's the 90s. I don't know how to make that sentence. You get what I mean. And that was shocking to me because I always thought I was an 80s girly, and I do love 80s music, don't get me wrong, but the 90s just comes more easily to me. The 90s is there for me and I didn't even realize it. Like I said, I listened to the Cockatoo Twins a lot. I listened to the Cranberries so much last year. They're probably one of my top listened to bands. Radiohead, just, even though they started kind of late 80s, but just, I didn't see what was right in front of me until I just kind of stepped away and stopped caring. And then I was like, what music do I listen to? Whoa, the 90s is everywhere. And then I thought about the fashion I'm drawn to, my personal style, and I love whimsy goth, but specifically more 90s grunge elements of the whimsy goth. Just like everything was right there. It shocked me to my core. And it's helped me so much now. So I'm still in that process of seeing what form that takes. I'm trying to also be sustainable with my clothing and fashion choices. I want to limit how much clothing I wear. So it helps knowing this, because now I can narrow it down and be like, wait, this is actually so fun. I love dressing this way because it's very simple. I love that about the 90s style. It's simple, but there are ways to elevate it, make it fun. I couldn't believe it. Really great advice. I feel like it's necessary, once again, to find yourself in order to, your sense of self needs to be strong as well in order for a whole group of us to gather and be strong, to have our own idea of who we are. Because even though I'm saying the 90s, there's still elements of me that stand out, that make it me. And I think we kind of have to find a way to use that narrative to build each other up from within ourselves in order so that we can be one, if that makes sense. Maybe we'd stop jumping from trend to trend if we thought more like this. Not saying this is a full solution. It's just, hey, you take it or don't. Okay, so enough about me. And I don't say that very often. Genuinely, what do we leave behind? That's still something we still need to ask ourselves. What is our legacy? Because we're already at this point where everything is so chaotic and weird. I don't know. I really don't know. There are a few things I'll mention that I do think are unique to us. Some of them I feel are cool. Others I'm like, I don't know. I would like to hear more things that feel like when you think of us, this is us, Gen Z. I'd love to know from other generations' perspectives as well. That's a cool one. Cool. I appreciate my generation's persistence and attempt at authenticity. Even this is me, and this is just another attempt from me, who is part of this generation, right? I love that we push authenticity. We really try push it, and sustainability and all these good things. It comes with good intentions. It gets askew, and sometimes it isn't as clear as it needs to be, and it doesn't look, it's not perfect, but I love that we care about that we do genuinely care about that. It's just a fight with social media and the internet, and if we could find a way to make consumption sustainable, that would be a game changer, I think. Not sure if it's possible. There are ways, I think, to make it better, because we can't be like climate change, but then go shop and spend on holes. It doesn't correlate. I appreciate how big we are with mental awareness. I think the biggest generation when it comes to mental health and pushing it forefront. Even that we get wrong at times, and there's every good thing is coming with a bad thing, unfortunately. Because I know it also leads to pressure of we also misuse words, and Now I'm thinking of queerness, like we're the most queer, not the most queer generation, I don't know. We're the most I don't think that's true. We're just the most, what's the word? I'm running out of words. Like we're loud and proud. We're out there, you know, because we're allowed to be out there, because other generations have had to work hard to get us to a point where we can be so free. And I think that's something very important we need not forget. But with being queer, I feel like now we pressure people to come out as queer as well, like especially celebrities. I hate and then there's a celebrity thing, like with mental health, where it's like, oh yeah, free XYZ, free this person, justice for this one, but then we treat like the chaperones poorly. I think, like I did say, that we don't have our own original slang. I mean, we have a few here and there, but I feel like we do make slang better. I love the way we use slang. Like slay the boots house down was one of my favorites that I used to say. I love that. I freaking love how we speak. It's so funny to me. I love how we speak. And we kind of, I don't know what new slang we have, to be honest with you. I couldn't think of it while I was like from the top of my head. I had to research. But yeah, another thing that is a big part of this generation that I've heard being thrown around by older generations with us is that we're the lost conscious generation. That is a scary thing to hear. Scary. I feel like every generation says that though. Everyone will be like, this is the lost generation, that's this, who cares? Look, do I have faith in the iPad kids? No. But I have to have faith that we, as their elders, will figure ourselves out, push towards a better world, so that they can see it and push towards that as well. Because I'm also heavily inspired by the hippie cultures or movements of the past alike to keep fighting. I'm inspired by my elders. And I'm using elders so dramatically. It's like people that are like 5 years older than me, 10 years older than me. Really on my elders, but I'm just using that to kind of put that gap between us. But I look to the generations before us, people before us, for that. That need to fight, to know how it looks to fight, to know where we came from and where we are not going back to, you know. So yeah, this has been a very video. If anyone knows how to clean a laptop at the back, like, am I supposed to put something over it? Because like the grease stains are crazy and they're not moving. Anyways, I hope you found this video insightful. I hope it made you question things but not have solutions. That was not my intent. If you're like, that's not the solution, well, I wasn't giving you one. Okay, bye.